Okay, so again, so when we did this survey the other week, when we did the surveys and asked the questions, it was pretty much unanimous. Everybody wanted to go into more detail for several of the stories that are primarily found in Kings and Chronicles. And so we are going to start tonight with a more detailed study of King Solomon's reign during his reign. And so we are in, I have this cool thing, and it's, I don't know if y'all are like this, but I'm Bible poor. I have so many Bibles. And this one is really cool, and I don't know why I don't pull it out more often. It's called the Narrated Bible in Chronological Order. So it takes the scriptures, and for like with this, because what I was noticing is when you get in 1st and 2nd Kings, it tells you a bunch of stuff that was told in Samuel, and then when you get to Chronicles, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, it tells you a bunch of stuff that's in 1st and 2nd Kings and in Samuel. And I thought, this is almost like the New Testament with all the Gospels. It's repeating. So what this did was it takes 1st and 2nd Kings, the 1st and 2nd Chronicles, and it meshes them together. And so, I don't know, like I said, I thought, well, that's good. That's too cool. So, like I said, I have been reading and looking through this with it, and so I won't miss anything. So what we're basically going to be doing with this is we will be going through those 4 books and gleaning from them what is the stories of the various characters that we're going to go in detail with. And so tonight, like I said, we're going to do Solomon. And King Solomon's reign was considered Israel's golden age. They had peace, they had prosperity, they were on top of the kingdoms, they were looked at and was very well respected, and this happened for, I'm not going to say 40 years, because just like with David, just like with Saul, as it got towards the end of Solomon's reign, he slipped. So, but for the longest, while he was on the throne, they had, like I said, they had all of these good things going for them. And the name Solomon means peace. And so that says something also, just confirming what it was going on during this time. And so we're going to be looking at 1 Kings chapters 1 through 11, and then 2 Chronicles 1 through 9. So see, this is what I'm saying with this. And when you look at Chronicles, it's what it is. It's a chronicle. It's all this detailed information that will put you to sleep. I'm sorry. Sort of like Numbers. Remember when we were in Numbers? All those numbers, this and this and that, begots, and this and all. And so that's kind of like, but when you get into 2 Chronicles, the first chapter, it's starting about the beginning of the reign of Solomon. Now, to start with, we're going to maybe backtracking a little bit. What is that? Huh? Oh, okay. So anyway, what we have going on is, and I'm going to review a little bit. So we have David. David, as we established, he is on his dying bed, and they're trying to get him warm because he's cold. So they bring in this Shunammite lady, Abishag, and they bring her in. And so what's going on is Absalom has been killed. Another one of the brothers has been killed. So that means the 4th son, Abinijah, let me make sure I'm saying that name right. Adonijah, he decides that he should take over the kingdom. So when you look at this, he goes, apparently what happens is because the scriptures criticize this, he comes to his father and asks for 50 horses and 50 men to ride those horses, and the father just says, well, what are you doing this for? And the guy doesn't really answer him. And they said that this was one of the issues with King David, is he did not keep his children under control. He let them do whatever they wanted to do. And I don't understand that. Here is a man, again, he had compassion for Saul because he was anointed, but you know, others, he just would drop the hammer in a heartbeat with someone that got out of line. But here with his children, again, he was not this way. So what happens is Adonijah attempts a coup. And again, he is the fourth son. Now, isn't it interesting? Because normally you think of the firstborn, because I mean, that's what it is, like with royalty, like in England. Whoever is the first male, they become king. Even if they've just had 3 daughters, and that fourth pregnancy is a son, well, he gets to be king. And so, anyway, but with this, there is still another one in front of him, one that was by the name of Daniel. So when we look at this, let's look at our family tree thing. So you look here, and it's got, when you see David, and it shows this in the pink kind of is his wives, and so this is Amon was the first, and again, you know, he's the one that raped his sister, so he's been killed. Then the next one is Daniel, and that other name is another name for him, so it's the same thing. And then you've got the next child that was born was Tamar, and then Absalom, but Absalom was killed. And then, so the next fourth one here is this Adonijah. And so, like I said, he takes it upon himself. He knows his dad is going to die, and his feeling is that I should be the king. I know something's been said about Solomon, but I should be the king. And so he gets two of David's men. He gets Joab, who again was over the army, remember that, and Abiathar, the priest, the high priest at that time. He gets them, and they go in agreement with him, and they help support him. And so what they do is they have a big old, he goes to Gihon, and Gihon is where the David's tabernacle is. And, you know, again, Moses' tabernacle is. David has brought the Ark of the Covenant, as we established earlier. He's brought it, and he's brought it to Jerusalem. And he has built a really nice tent for it, and it stays in there. We talked about how all of the singers are in there, and the instruments, and so you have that. But the tabernacle, the wilderness tabernacle, is in Gihon. I believe I'm saying that right. And that's where the sacrifices can be done. That's where all of the furniture and everything is there. So that's what this Adonijah goes. He goes there, and they anoint him king. But you know, they have no authority really. But they just do it on their own. The interesting thing is that when Adonijah does this, he does not invite Nathan the prophet. He does the special guard of David. He does not invite Solomon. Solomon was his 10th brother, and he doesn't invite them, but he invites everybody else. Well, so that has been planned and is going on, and then they have a big party and everything. Well, meanwhile, back at home, Nathan visits Bathsheba, and Nathan comes to her. He says, "Do you know what's going on?" And he tells her that this is what's going on, and that Adonijah has set himself up as king, and you better do something. We got to do something. And so, and meanwhile, poor David is again, he's dying, and this is going on. And so they get a plan together. And so what they do is diplomatic decide. What they do is Nathan says, okay, this is what we're going to do. You're going to go into his bedroom, and you're going to remind him that he said Solomon was going to be king. And but then you're going to tell him what all is going on with Adonijah, what he has done, and who has done it with him, who's in cahoots with him. And he said, and then what I'm going to do is come in on the back of what you're saying, and I'm going to come in to the king and tell him as well. So, two witnesses. And needless to say, David is not happy about it. And so that's what happens. So Bathsheba goes in to David, and she reminds him of his vow of Solomon being his successor, informs him of the fourth son's arrogance of declaring himself king, even though his father has not yet died. So David's not even yet died. And, it's almost like the same thing Absalom did. And then Nathan, the prophet, comes in, and like I said, informs the king what has been going on as well. Well, then David gives a promise to Bathsheba. And what happens is, when Nathan comes in, Bathsheba leaves. She excuses herself. So then after Nathan has talked to the king David, David calls Bathsheba back in the presence of the king, and this is David says to her, he says, as surely as the Lord lives, who has delivered me out of every trouble, I will surely carry out today what I swore to you by the Lord and the Lord of Israel, and the God of Israel. Solomon, your son, shall be king after me, and he will sit on my throne in my place. So then he summons in Psalms 1, chapter 1, verses 32 and 37, he asks for Zadok, Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah to come, and he gives them instructions. And as we talked before, I think it's just odd, apparently the big deal is for the king to have a mule. Why a mule? Why not a stallion, or what is the white horse called?
I think it's a stallion.
Is it a stallion? A mule? But anyway, so what they do is it's symbolic. And isn't it interesting? The parallel with Jesus coming into Jerusalem on the donkey. David's mule, Solomon, is put on that and carried to Gihon. And so they go, and again, everything is there. All the stuff is there. So, and right there, in that, with all of the regalia, the stuff, there is the horn of anointing oil. And so they're instructed by David, go and anoint Solomon as king. And then he said to blow the trumpets. So that's what they do. And the trumpets they're blowing are shofars. And so they are blown, and they shout out, "Long live King Solomon!" Well, meanwhile, again, this wonderful festive party is going on, and when they hear "Long, long live King Solomon," and they see what all is going on, they're like, "What? What? What is that about?" So at that time, Jonathan, who is the son of Abiathar the priest, reports in. He comes in, and they're saying, "What is going on?" And so he tells them, "This is what happened. This is what happened. They've anointed him. He is now king. They've blown the trumpets, blah, blah, blah." And everybody starts quaking in their boots because the party's over. And so they leave. They run, and Adonijah, he grabs the horns of the altar. Do y'all remember when I was younger, talk about grabbing the horns of the altar? And I don't exactly understand that. Can anybody? I just imagine it's a thing of saying, I'm not leaving till you bless me. So he grabs the horns of the altar, And what he's actually doing is he went into the temple, the tabernacle, and he's using the sanctuary. So what he says is, and he says he wants King Solomon to answer. He won't kill him. So he's saying, I'm not leaving here until I have that he says to me, Solomon, that he will not kill me. And Solomon replied, if he shows himself to be a worthy man, not a hair of his head will fall to the ground. But if evil is found in him, he will die. Okay, remember that. So then in 1 Kings 2 and 1:9 is King David's last words to Solomon, and he gives instructions to Solomon, and he blesses him, and he's telling him, he says, if you will serve the Lord and be good, do what's right, then God will continue. He will bless you, and he will allow again, for my lineage to go through to throughout the kings would be of my lineage. And then what he does is he also gives him a conditional. He says, and if you will serve the Lord, you will live a long life. And so the other thing he does, though, is David's got a list. He's got a hit list he gives to him. And these are people that have done David wrong. And, okay, where's my, oh boy. I turned the page and didn't know it. King David. Let's see. Anyway, there are several people that David wants Solomon to take care of. Almost got it. So he says, now you yourself know that Joab, what he did to the two commanders of Israel's army. Now remember, when David took, he was the king over Judah. He was not the king over Israel. And so what this Joab, he took it upon himself, and he went, and the commander of the army of Israel, Joab, went in to Abner and Amasa and killed them, shedding their blood in peacetime as it is in battle. And and with that blood stained the belt around his waist and the sandals on his feet. Deal with him according to your wisdom, but do not let his gray head go down to the grave in peace. And he says to him, now show kindness to Barzillai of Gilead, and let them be among those who eat at your table. So he's giving them instructions. And he says there's a guy here by the name of Shimei, son of Gera, the Benjaminite. He said, who called down bitter curses on me the day I went to Mahanaim. When he came down to meet me at Jordan, I swore to him by the Lord, I will not put you to death by the sword. But now do consider him innocent. You are a man of wisdom. You will know what to do with him. Bring his gray head down to the grave in blood. And so he's got several things he's told Solomon to do. And so, and then David, he dies. And now Solomon, it's like 2 times. So let's see, David was anointed like 3 times. The first time was Samuel, when he was a little shepherd boy. Second time was he was anointed king over Judah. Third time he was anointed king over Israel and Judah. So 3 times. We're here, Solomon is anointed king twice. And so he was anointed that initial time, and then when his father officially passes, Then he's anointed a second time. So that's what has occurred. And I'm a little confused because I looked at several things. A lot of the Jewish rabbis and sages say that Solomon took the kingdom when he was 12. And but then others say that there's a little timeline. It says David was born in 10,040. So then Solomon was born in 991. And then Solomon was crowned in 971. So that's 20 years. So I don't know. But anyway, y'all got any ideas on that? So, and I don't know. It could be that when he was 12 was the first time, and then the next time was again when he was 20. And I'm trying to think, why did I go down that rabbit trail? Okay. So anyway, okay, so I'll get back to it. So anyway, going back to the thing, so Solomon carries out several of these things, and as soon as he is king, he starts taking care of the business Dad asked him to take care of, and so he kills Joab, and he has one of them is the Benjamite. He is told that he can stay in Jerusalem, but if he leaves his property, it's over. He's going to kill him. So this guy, and he stays on that property for years, like 3, 4 years, and all of a sudden there's an issue. He has 2 slaves that try to escape him. Now what does that say about this man? What kind of a man you think he was that 2 slaves run away?
Was it very good?
Apparently not. So because of that, he was bent and determined to get them back. So what does he do? He crosses over the border, the line, and so he's graveyard dead. He is killed. So again, it's almost like he's cleaning up some leftover things that David, so he's taking care of that. And what he's doing, he's establishing his kingdom. So after that, so again, and you remember what we read a while ago, he's told Adonijah, he says, as long as you behave, I won't kill you. So Adonijah decides that he's going to go to Mama Sheba, because men, a lot of times sons will listen to their mother. She may have more sway with them. I don't. I don't know how many of y'all, but I don't. But anyway, so he goes to her and he says, I don't have a wife, and it would be so nice if I could have Abishag. She's now, because what happened in the kingdoms is, so David had a harem. He had like 10 wives, and he had some concubines, I believe. And so when the next king came, he gets them as well. So she's sitting in this harem, and that just means she's there now. And so he comes to, like I said, Bathsheba, and he asks her if she'll go to Solomon and ask if he can have her as his wife. And who knows, Bathsheba may be a little jealous of her because, she was with him, the husband, David, all towards the end of his death and everything. So there may be a little bit of a jealousy thing going on, I don't know. And, but anyway, so she goes to Solomon and she asks for this. And, Solomon says, basically, Elizabeth paraphrased, absolutely not. That is not going to happen. And the reason why is because if he had allowed her to be married to him, then he will come back and say, see, I should be the king. I've married her. Solomon knew I should have been the king. Can't you hear this? Solomon knew I should have been the king. And but to appease me, he took it, he stole it from me. Now we have had 10 years or more of stealing accusations with the presidency, with our. So here, this is this is something else. This is, like I said, nothing's new under the sun. So Solomon says no, and basically what he says is, you messed up, you're dying. And so they immediately kill him and took care of him. And so like I said, that all of that goes on, and then so again he removes the priest. Abiathar is removed from priest, and I believe he is murdered, and they put Zadok is now the new high priest. And so, like I said, all of that is going on at the beginning. And then we get to the part, and I remember this. I was telling Greg when I was at my home church here in Rocky Mount. I can remember. I can see the walls of the little Sunday school room. I can see the little girls sitting there with me. I can see my teacher, Sister Sharp was her name, and she shared with us this story about how Solomon, the Lord came to Solomon and said, whatever you want, I'll give you. What do you want? And Solomon, first of all, what he does is he praises and honors God. And remember, I don't know those that were there here Wednesday night, before you go before a king, or when your first thing you do when you come into the king's presence, or a president, or whatever, you need to give them honor. You need to thank them and acknowledge them. And so that's what he does to God, and he says to him. And so, and this is found in 1 Kings, the 3rd chapter, the 5th and 14th through the 5 through 14 verses, and then also in 2 Chronicles 1, 7 through 12. And so he's at Gibeon, and again, that's where the tabernacle is. Now, according to Jewish writings, he had fasted 40 days before this happened, and he did a bunch of sacrificing. And then he is sleeping there, and in his dream, the Lord appears. And he asked him, the Lord says, ask for whatever you want me to give you. And Solomon, and again, I said he greets the God and everything, and he says, give me your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. For who is able to govern this great people of yours? And again, do you see the difference with that? And remember with Saul? Saul was, this is my kingdom, this is my people, my, me. And yet David, and here is Solomon, who is the son of David. He's got his dad's heart for the Lord and everything. He identifies and says, again, he says, give me, okay, one, he calls himself a servant. And to govern your people. And he says, and again, he says, able to govern these people of yours. So he established that. God says, since you have asked for this, and not for long life or wealth or for yourself, nor have asked for a death of any of your enemies, but discernment in administering justice, I will do what you have asked. There will never be anyone else like you. Moreover, I will give you what you have not asked for. So he gives them both riches and honor. And like I said, so I can remember being, and I don't know, I probably was, 9, 10 years old. And I remembered, and it impacted me. That's the thing of Sunday school, folks. Teaching the kiddos. And it really impacted me, and I thought, that's what I'm going to do. And so that's what I've asked for, Lord. Give me understanding. Help me with right and wrong. Give me discernment. And again, because of that, Because see, if you have those things, you will get that stuff. You'll get the riches, you'll get the honor. You know, God said, yes, I'll give you, you know, this. But, you know, that's the key. Because, you know, if he gave him a bunch of money and he didn't have any sense to get out of enough sense to get out of the rain, as they say, he would squander it. He would lose it all. So, so that's, yeah, he did. And so that, I just, you know, again, so like I said, I remember that. And that's one of those Sunday school lessons that, like I said, I remember. And,
we was talking about the age of
yeah.
Solomon. In verse 7 of 3, he says, I am but a little child.
Right.
But my commentary says it wasn't speaking of his age. This was speaking of his inexperience.
Yes.
As being over people.
Agreed. What did you find out?
Yeah, there's some commentary in 1 Kings 11:42 through 43. Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over Israel for 40 years. Then he rested with his ancestors and was buried in the city of David's father. And Rehoboam his son succeeded him as king. 1 Kings 14:21. Rehoboam, son of Solomon, was king of Judah. He was 41 years old when he became king. And it goes, Rehoboam became king of Judah when his father Solomon died. If Solomon became king at the age of 12, and he reigned 40 years, then he died at age 52.
Which is when he died.
However, Rehoboam was 41 years old when he became king, which means he was already 1 year old when Solomon became king 40 years earlier. He would therefore be born when Solomon was only 11 years old, and conceived when Solomon was 10.
Oh, wow.
While people marry in the early age in those days, biologically it's highly unlikely a 10-year-old would father a child. Outside the Bible, according to the Talmud, while at age 13 a boy becomes a son of the commandment.
Yeah.
The proper age for marriage is 18, between 16 to 24. Age 20 should be earning a livelihood. If Solomon became king at age 18 to 20, fathering Rehoboam at 16 to 18 is a high possibility, and he died around 58 to 60. And it says he lived a good long life, which, according around that time was 60 to 70. So
Yeah.
it's more likely that it was 20.
Well, actually the word, it says that Solomon died at 52. And the reason why is because that was a conditional thing. David told him, if you will do the commandments, if you do all of this stuff, you'll have a long life. Well, we find out later he did not. And so I don't know. And again, folks, we're just talking, and it doesn't mean salvation is still, we can ask, we'll be able to ask when we get to heaven and ask some stuff. It's just, I don't know, wandering minds want to know.
So he might have been that young, he might have thought it.
He might have been. I mean, I even heard another thing. One of the rabbis, several of them, they're saying that Bathsheba was 8 years old, and I'm like, oh, come on. So but again, it's things to think about, it's to ponder on. As the Lord says, come, let us reason together. So we're reasoning together. But King, so like I said, he asked for that, and then afterwards, he does a bunch of sacrifice. He realizes when he wakes up it was a dream. It was so real to him. It was a dream. And so then he blesses the people and sacrifices a bunch of stuff. And then the next, now in the Bible, I mean, with this, it goes into the temple. But folks, we're going to talk about the temple next week. So I'm not even going to touch that. So we're going to go on over. So one of the things that, another story, and I know y'all have, I'm a, Sunday school and Sunday school period. The next thing that happens is again, it was amazing the wisdom that Solomon had. Great wisdom. He was admired and honored by even the kingdoms around him. And we know the story. There were two women that were, both had babies, and they're in the bed with their babies, and in Asia and a lot of other places, they do that. They sleep, with the babies, and so one of them rolls over on its baby and kills it.
Oh, no.
Well, she wakes up and realizes that the baby's dead, so she gets out of bed, she picks up that dead baby, she goes around over to her friend and puts that dead baby on there near her and gets the live baby and comes back over and she gets into bed and goes to sleep. Y'all have heard this story? Okay. All right, so they wake up and the issue, so what happens is the woman, she says, "This is not my baby. This is your baby." "It is not. This is my baby. See, this baby, it's letting me nurse it. It's my baby." Da, 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 da. And so it got so bad that they brought them before this King Solomon. And Solomon, he says, so they say this, "This is my baby. This is my baby. This baby's dead." Da, 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 da. And finally, what Solomon says, he says, "I tell you what we'll do. Go get me a sword, and we'll cut the baby in half, and both of y'all can have a piece of the baby. Solve the problem." And the woman that it's not her child says, "Yeah, let's do that." And the other woman says, "Oh no, let it live. She can have it. She can have it." And by that, the wisdom, Solomon knew who really was the mother of that. Now, some folks have, they don't understand why we read the Old Testament. They don't understand the importance of it. It's just in the New Testament, that's alive and it's about Jesus, blah, blah, blah. But listen, Jesus is part of the Godhead, and God is the one that's sitting on the throne right now. Jesus is at his right hand side. We learn about our eternal Father by reading how he took care of these people in the Old Testament. And that is, there are so many times that, again, I tend to lean towards the Old Testament. I don't know why, but I do. I tend to lean towards that more so than the New Testament. And I can remember being in a church that was, oh my goodness, folks, it was a mess. Hindsight's 20/20. I should have left when some of the others did. But I was like, oh no, we're going to keep this together, and the pastor's going to be able to come back. And oh my, how I saw people that call themselves Christians, how they can be.
Amen.
And the Lord reminded me of this story. Because those that loved the church were willing for it to stay. The others were, no, they wanted to cause problems, they wanted to split, all of this stuff. And the Lord reminded me of this. And it let me know, because I was like, Lord, I'm confused. I don't understand what's going on. So that's the importance of why we need to know these stories in the Old Testament. So again, he was known for that. Now, I don't know if y'all remember, because I kind of, when I got off on this, and I was talking about, and this again is some of the Jewish stuff. So Bathsheba's grandfather, his name is Ahithophel, and we called him Phil. He was a seer. He was the one, as I told you guys before, when David tried to bring the Ark of the Covenant and he brought it the wrong way, it was Phil that told him, this is how you're supposed to do it. Very knowledgeable, very wise man. Okay, so it's interesting, this knowledge and wisdom that Solomon has. David was wise. And then he's got this grandfather, so it's kind of in the lineage. So therefore, this is where some of this intelligence and logic and discernment comes from. And unfortunately, the thing too is we find out later in the first thing he does is, and it's from Deuteronomy, says not to do this. First thing he does is he goes to Egypt and marries the Pharaoh's daughter. Now, it says in Deuteronomy, don't do that.
Anyway.
But he does. And the one reason why Solomon was able to keep peace for those 40 years is because instead of him fighting people, he'd go get a wife, go get one of the daughters and marry them. That's why he had all those women and concubines. It was a political thing. And again, if you if you're ever into watching the period type of love stories, you have that thing where she's in love with someone else, but her father has promised her to this one, and again, it's all governmental stuff. So that's what he did. Well, when she came, he may have thought, oh, I'll change her. I'll convince her to become Jewish. Well, not so. She came and she brought her gods. She brought her paganism. She even brought like thousands of different instruments, musical instruments that were used for worship in the temple that were not used to worship God in Egypt. But she brought all this stuff, and he allowed her to build a temple and all this kind of thing. And that's what happened. Every one of these women that came in, he allowed them to bring in their gods. And so it started weakening and started causing problems. I failed to get the list of everything, but when you look in here in the Kings, it talks about just for one day how much meat and barley and grains it required for them. One of the things Solomon also did, which was very interesting, is he took away the concept of the 12 tribes, and he had it more of 12 managers. And each one of the tribes were responsible. Again, this man is brilliant. Each one was responsible for providing the food for that month, their tribe. He was able to do that. It took him 7 years to build the temple, and that was one of the first things on the agenda. And in this meanwhile, he's also building his own. It took him 13 years, folks, to build his palace. I think, and what they say about the temple is it's one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Was this temple, so like I said, we'll get more into that in next Wednesday. But again, his fame was so great, and people would even come to him for counseling from other countries. And it spread till Bathsheba came. Not Bathsheba. What is her name? Ooh, what is her name? It just went out of my head. The queen. Okay, where are you, Queen?
When we're talking about her age, a lot of the things calling her age, a lot of that comes from like Muslim sources, is what I'm seeing. Everybody was saying David was like 40, 50, and she was maybe 16 to 20, somewhere in that range. So, but a lot of the 8-year-old stuff is coming from like Muslim sources.
Well, that's what and that's
so look like, hey, see, David was just like our prophet. He was just like her.
Yeah.
He was just like her.
And it's not Bathsheba. Y'all help me. What is her name? She's the Queen of Sheba. That's it. That's it, Queen of Sheba. Yeah. And she came and just to see all of this, and she'd do riddles, and Solomon could answer them, and she was just amazed. And so again, all of these people, this was considered the golden age of the kingdom of Israel, and it went on, and then but because of what he was doing, Solomon got really dark, and I don't know if do y'all think he made it to heaven? Because I'm telling you, he got into the dark arts, he got into all of this stuff, So, but he also, but from him, with wisdom, we got the book of Proverbs. He wrote 73 of the Psalms, from what I understand. We've got the book of Ecclesiastes, which is basically a summary of his life, you know, all is vain and all of this, I've had money and now I don't have money, da 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 da, all of that. Again, he was a powerful man, and he was the third king. There was only 2 kings that ruled with the combined kingdom, and that was David and it was Solomon. Does anybody have any questions?
I think toward the end of his life, I don't think he made it right enough.
I really,
Because, if you read some of his writings, like in Psalms, you will see where it's like a repentance, like coming back
yeah,
to the original.
yeah. So,
And when he watched Ecclesiastes, it's saying like that was like later in his life, so he realized, hey, everything is meaningless, all this stuff I did before was meaningless, hey, and then
Yeah.
hey, look to God, he's the person of everything.
exactly,
And that's what they're saying, later in life, he wrote Ecclesiastes and stuff.
agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we talked about Solomon. So next week, we'll talk about the temple and discuss that. Let's stand and get dismissed.